Going live on Instagram. It looks like we are live on Facebook on our private group. Quick tech check. Got all our mics working, cameras recording. We're ready to rock and roll. What's going on, everyone on Instagram? How you doing? Good to see you guys. Giving some waves here. Little shout out. Jelly Roll, what's up? Live on our Facebook private group. Cool. All right, well, I think we'll give it just 2 more minutes, give people a chance to join here. Live both on Instagram and on Facebook, and then we'll get things kicked off here. But don't worry if you miss any of it. We will be posting this on iTunes, Spotify, and I know I've been saying this for a while, but finally it looks like we're starting to get everything dialed in with our blog. What's going on from the UK? Starting to get everything dialed in with our blog, so hopefully very, very soon here, we will have all the podcasts up on the blog. You'll be able to sort by topic, etc. So be able to sort by podcast, videos, articles, etc. But then even more specifically into the topics that we're talking about. Cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get this thing kicked off. Now, normally, I'm covering different topics, and some of these end up pretty diverse from just different training questions, nutrition questions, motivation questions, etc. Trying to narrow this down into more specific topics. So when you're searching for this stuff, you'll be able to identify it based on the headline description, say, hey, cool, that's a topic I'm interested in tuning into or not. When it's kind of random questions, it makes it a little bit tough. They all just end up a bunch of episodes with random questions. There's a lot of good information, but how do you find that information later? It's not very searchable. So trying to narrow things in. With that being said, have one specific topic. This is kind of an interesting one for me anyway. But before I jump into that, let's go ahead and kick this thing off with an intro, which is welcome to the Undersun podcast, where we talk about everything under the sun related to fitness, nutrition, training, nutrition, just life in general. Sometimes we'll even talk about motivation or business motivation or how to get set up with a business, which the funny thing is they all tie in. They all have the same common ground between what it takes to be successful with fitness and every other aspect of life. For me, my building blocks, so to speak, came from fitness. That's where I learned discipline. That's where I learned hard work and consistency and all those success skills, and the light bulb went off for me, and I realized, wait a second, if I can build a great physique using these same sort of, like I said, success tools, then I can build anything. So that was a big turning point for me, and that's one of the reasons why I love fitness, why I love sharing fitness, because it gives us all that sense of control over our life. And I think once we realize that we do have more control over our own destiny, that's very empowering. And just like I did, you can start applying that to different areas of your life. Now, with that being said, today's topic, I've had a lot of people ask me in different forms. Some of it's been very, nice feedback and, questions. Some of it's been, on different social platforms, kind of more of the snarky comments. But it's specific to resistance band training, why I started doing this. So I'll give you an example of some of the more negative comments, which truthfully don't bother me at all. But it does make me feel like I owe people, I don't owe anyone anything, but definitely would like to clarify. How about that? Clarify why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why am I training this way? Why did I start Undersun Fitness, etc.? Because there seems to be this perception out there amongst people who don't know me and don't know my background and haven't been following my content for any period of time, that this is some sort of gimmicky thing that just out of nowhere I just decided that I was going to, trick people into buying resistance bands, that I don't really work out this way, that, this is some sort of gimmick, which is certainly anything but the case. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to just give you a little bit of the backstory. So this is storytelling time. So this is how I got to this point in my life, both in the way that I train and what I'm doing in business. So I guess I would have to back up a little bit. Obviously, I've been training a long time. Many of you guys who follow my stuff know that, it's been kind of a long, interesting journey in the fitness industry. I've been a part of so many different things. There was a point in time where I worked for Weeder Publications, which was Muscle and Fitness Magazine, Flex Magazine, used to include Hers, etc. But one of the assets was also the Mr. Olympia bodybuilding contest. So was involved with that as well. Done, competitive bodybuilding myself. Kind of just seen all aspects of this industry and really watched it mature over time. But, the way that I started training was the way that most people started training. I actually, when I was 16, I asked for a weight set for Christmas. My parents didn't have much money, so I talked my mom into buying me the bar and the weights and my dad into buying the bench for me. And that's how it started, working out in the backyard. Well, first it started in my bedroom, but I really didn't have much room in there. So kind of migrated to the garage, the backyard, wherever I could fit it. But that's where it started. And then eventually I made my way into the gym. And like most people, that's how I first started building my physique, was that kind of traditional approach of, more of like a bodybuilding split and going in there and lifting heavy weights. And I loved it. And matter of fact, to this day, I still have an appreciation for lifting weights. Now, I don't necessarily want to lift that way anymore, but I still appreciate it. It's part of my heritage, part of my roots. So I'm certainly not anti-weights by any stretch of the imagination. But one of the comments that I get a lot is, well, you didn't build that physique using only resistance bands. And you're right, I didn't. Because I've been training, I always said, I've been training over 25 years, but I was kind of doing a reality check, and I realized that coming up next year will be 30 years that I've been working out. That's a long time. And so, yes, I did not use resistance bands through all 30 of those years, but I did use them for the past 11 years. And that actually came about because when I was at Muscle and Fitness, we had a client who was advertising in the magazine who was selling resistance bands. And they were the tube style with the carabiners on the end and the handles and all that. And so I got hooked up with a set of them that came in a little duffel bag, kind of like a medium-sized duffel bag. And this was the extra heavy version of it. So it came with more bands than the normal one. And I really didn't know a whole lot about resistance band training, but I started doing some research, and I worked with some people over at Muscle and Fitness. And we were starting to publish some articles on it at the time, talking about linear variable resistance. And so that was one of the first things that I really started to key in on, was linear variable resistance, which was the same reason that powerlifters were training with chains. So I'd already been exposed to linear variable resistance, this idea of, progressive resistance, So as you go through the range of motion, the weight increases as you get into a stronger position. So I started training with resistance bands purely out of functionality. It wasn't because I was so in love with resistance bands. Honestly, I was kind of indifferent to them in the beginning. But I started combining them with free weights just with the goal of enhancing my workouts, making my workouts harder, wanted to get stronger. Plus, I just like the idea of testing out new things, doing things differently. So that particular time, I actually got stronger than I ever had been before. And that's when this light bulb went off, like, wow, bands are really effective, because I could go in with free weights and try to progress by just always trying to lift heavier and heavier. But the one thing that I realized is the heavier that I always tried to lift, I was always sacrificing a little bit of form, good technique, wasn't getting that same kind of peak contractions and time under tension because I was having to sling the weight too much. But with bands, I felt these really awesome contractions, and I just loved the way that it felt. And I liked the results that I was getting from it. So there's a little bit of this idea when, kind of light bulb went off in the back of my head, like, man, these things are so good, I bet you could work out only with resistance bands and get the same result. But the reality is, at that particular point in time, I was too scared to leave the gym. It was just too much of what I knew at that point. Think about it. So that was, if that's 11 years ago, you got to figure I was already training for almost 20 years in the gym. So you're kind of set in your ways and you don't really like to change. And that was me. So even though I like trying new things, I wasn't prepared to leave the gym yet and say, hey, bye-bye weights, bye-bye machines, bye gym. I'm just, taking off with my bands. Wasn't ready for that. But the idea started at that point. So through those 11 years, I would train with them off and on, incorporating them in different ways. So literally combining them in exercises. So imagine doing curls where you're grabbing a dumbbell and using them in combination with the band. Same thing, with doing chest presses or flies, etc. But then I would also experiment using say, free weight only exercise, and then maybe my last set of that exercise, I would do it with bands only. And then I would do some exercises just with weights, and then some complete exercise every single set with bands only. So I started experimenting with it and using the bands more and more. But I still really wasn't ready to make that full commitment to using bands only. And that happened a little over 2 years ago. So it started about 2.5 years ago, and I'll tell you what happened. It was a combination of things. One, I had decided that I wanted to compete in a physique show, so at the Arnold Classic there in Columbus, Ohio. And I was really only doing it for a goal and just to prove to myself that I still could do it, that, at 40 years old, I could jump up on stage and compete with guys that were half my age. I've always got a little bit of chip on my shoulder, always something to prove, I guess. But if anything, just prove it to myself. But I started training for that, and really I was doing the show to motivate myself just to get in better shape. I'm always looking for a goal because I think that's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself when you really want to push yourself, to get extreme results. You've got to have a really good reason why. And on top of that, to have a good goal, it has to have a very clear deadline. You have to have that sense of urgency to really push yourself. So doing a show is a nice combination of those things. It's, it's a good goal, something to focus on, and it's got a very clear deadline, which is that day that you step on stage. So I was doing it to push myself in the gym, and what really sucked is I ended up injuring myself. Not a big injury. It started off just as some tendonitis in my forearm. So my elbow was a little bit sore, and it's something that I think a lot of us have experienced. It's something I experienced when I was in my 20s too. I mean, I see guys that are, in their early 20s, even, teens in the gym with elbow wraps and all sorts of different things on there because they're experiencing elbow pain. And I didn't do anything about it. I kept training, pushing through it, and eventually got to the point where I couldn't even hold the toothbrush. I couldn't even brush my teeth. It was awful. And so I talked to a friend of mine who had something similar, but it progressed to the point where he'd actually torn his tendon at the elbow. So I asked him which doctor he went to because I'd tried everything at that point. I went to acupuncture, I'd done deep tissue, all the fascia work, you name it. Like all the, the scraping and the cupping and whatever. Nothing was working. So I went to this doctor and she said, well, the simple problem is that you're just over gripping. She said tennis elbow, golfer's elbow. She said everyone always thinks that it's from the swing. It's not. It's the different hand position or the different angles, but it's over gripping. That's what causes the tendonitis. So usually it starts with inflammation in the muscle, and then if you don't do anything about it, that inflammation starts to spread, and ultimately you can get what's called tendinosis, which is what I had, where you get inflammation in the nerve. And then that takes a lot of time. So long story short, it took about 3 months to heal without using it. So that really put a dampener on all my training, getting ready for the show. But I was committed, so I was just looking for different ways to go ahead and, follow through on my commitment and do this show. So I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff where I was like trying to attach wrist straps to, the cable machine so I wouldn't grip it. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous, but got my way through it, did the show, and then afterward, I was reflecting on it, and I just said to myself, man, I hate being injured. And I don't know anyone who does love being injured, but we tolerate it. It's one of those things that we tell ourselves that when we work out, it just goes with the territory, but it doesn't have to. And it just was, I reached this point where I just was sick and tired of it. I work out so I can feel good, not feel like shit. And So I thought, you know what, let me just take a little break from the weights and let me go back to bands. Maybe this would be a cool opportunity just to train with him. So after a couple weeks of playing around with him, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm ready for this. I think I'm ready just to give this thing a shot and try bands only. So started working out with him, and I thought, you know what, let me go ahead and throw some of this stuff on my YouTube channel. So I put up some chest workouts and arm workouts and back workouts. So basically every single workout I was doing, I did a video for it and I threw it up on YouTube. And at that particular time, I was already busy, had my business. The last thing I wanted to do was get into, bands and training and all that. But I'd reached out to this company that originally got me into it in the first place. And I said, hey, why don't we do something here? I'm going to create some content. I think I'm going to go full in. I'm going to jump into band training only. I can send the traffic your way, or, maybe there's something we can do, or I can hook people up with a discount. Long story short, I got zero response from them. Nothing. Reached out twice and I thought, you know what? Okay, well, not going to work with them. But I had all these people saying, hey, what bands do you use? What do you recommend? And, what training programs do you recommend? And I had been playing around with, I'd moved from the tube style bands over to the loop style which the Undersun bands are based off of. And the one thing that I liked about them was that I had a little bit more flexibility in my hand positioning. Like with the tube style, because they have the handle built into them, you don't have as much flexibility with shortening or lengthening the band, and that's where your variable resistance comes from. The more you stretch the band, the harder they get. So you could increase your resistance if you were anchoring it with, say, your feet by widening your stance or trying to wrap the band around your foot, etc. But I just liked the loop style where I could reach further down on the band, grab it wherever I wanted, and I just felt like I had so many different options when it came to the resistance level. And the big thing was they were super light and they were portable. It's like this minimalist approach, because with the tube style, I didn't like the big duffel bag. It was like this big heavy duffel bag, and it was all the metal carabiners and handles and all the attachments, and it was just too bulky and too heavy. And so I started training with 5 different levels of resistance with the loop style bands. And that's kind of when the idea clicked. I was like, all right, well, I don't know anything about any of these companies. I don't know who they are. I don't know how their bands are made. I don't know what they're made of. I don't know if they stand behind their company or if they're just selling it just because it's just another thing to sell. And I couldn't find any good training programs out there specific to muscle building. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it for myself anyway. I'm committed to this. I'm going to do it. So I might as well just make it accessible to everybody else. And so that was the beginning of this idea with Undersun. So it started with me wanting to just train this way, being committed to it because I liked it. I liked the freedom that I had. I didn't have to go into the gym if I didn't want to, but it wasn't about that. I was telling someone the other day that the extra freedom that you have wouldn't matter if you didn't get the results you were looking for. Like, none of those peripheral benefits matter if at the end of the day they don't work. But that was the thing. I already knew that they worked. I already knew I could get great results from them. So then I started thinking about all these other, like I said, peripheral benefits. Like, wow, this is super time efficient. I don't have any time because I've got a business and kids and wife and trying to juggle all these things like we all are. And being able to save time any way I can is super important to me, because I felt like I was always trying to create time. I was getting up super early in the morning. I was staying up late at night, just trying to squeeze more stuff in the day, and I couldn't create more time. But then I thought, you can create time. It's called efficiency, not wasting time. And so the fact that, not having to go to the gym, which was a 20-minute drive for me either way, which was 40 minutes in total, I thought I could pretty much finish my entire workout just in that amount of time that I'd be in my car. So those other benefits, like the time efficiency and the freedom, etc., being able to travel, that was a big thing. Being in the fitness industry as long as I have been, you have no idea how many opportunities that I passed up through the years because it just didn't fit in with the structure of my day. Because to be really successful with your fitness goals, you do have to be very, very disciplined. You have to be structured. to make something habitual, you almost have to do it at the same time, the same way every single day, where you're not thinking about it. It's just kind of automatic, just the same way that you would brush your teeth in the morning without thinking about it. So every time I had the opportunity to travel or go somewhere, the first thing that would pop in my mind is, well, where am I going to work out? What am I going to eat? And at the end of the day, I didn't want to disrupt my schedule and that consistency, so I passed up a lot of those opportunities. And I'm just at a point now where I just don't want to pass up those opportunities anymore. I want to travel. I want to get out there. I want to do cool things. And, so to be able to just throw these bands in a bag and not have to worry about where I'm going to work out anymore, I know that it doesn't matter. Literally doesn't matter. I could do it in a hotel room. I could do it, out on the beach. I could do it on a mountaintop. I could do it anywhere, literally anywhere. So it's just given me a lot more freedom in that respect. And now I feel like I can juggle all the things that I want to juggle. I can focus on my business, focus on my kids. I don't have to, sacrifice that anymore, because frankly, I was at this point where I was starting to feel really guilty as a dad, because it was this choice like, okay, do I stay committed to my fitness goal and go to the gym at 5:30 and not get home until 7 when my kids are going to bed at, 8:15? It just didn't seem fair to them. Felt like I was neglecting that responsibility. So when you've got all these priorities and you're not willing to sacrifice any of them, business or / career, kids, wife, your own sanity, and then trying to fit this in with your fitness goals, I see why people give up the gym. I see why it's so easy for people to just stop going. You're like, all right, well, out of all the priorities, as important as it is to me, that's the one that's, can be sacrificed, because I can't sacrifice my kids or I can't sacrifice my job. So I wasn't willing to sacrifice any of those things. So I had to find a way to make it work. And this is the way I found to make it work. So for me, with Undersun, I'm not just selling resistance bands and workout programs. My goal here is to help people find better quality of life, because that's what it's done for me. It's given me more freedom. It's given me more time. It's given me more sanity, because now I'm not killing myself trying to squeeze all these things in a day. And so my overall quality of life is better. It's not just about getting great results. But with that being said, I still go back to the fact that I wouldn't train this way if it didn't work. After almost 30 years of training, of serious training, like I have been as disciplined and as consistent as anyone could ever be. I've worked my ass off at this, literally my whole adult life. This is something that, fitness was the first time I was ever really disciplined in my life. That's where I learned discipline, because I was very undisciplined as a kid. And so this was like the first place that I was ever able to get great results in my life, because I had that kind of consistency and hard work and focus. And, so to value that as much as I value it, I'm not going to just do something just because it's convenient or because it's easier, because it's portable. No, I'm going to do it because it works, and it does work. So I get it when I see all the skepticism and, some of the negative comments like, oh, you didn't build your physique that way, or resistance bands can't build muscle, or all the negative things that I hear. I get it. But that's only because, it's unfamiliar, it's different. Trust me, another year from now, this is going to be so commonplace, and it's already happening. I went out to LA out there, and it was weird. It was just like people just gravitated right towards it. I think on one side, people are always looking for something, the latest, greatest thing. But the big thing is when people try it. They look at it and they can say, oh, yeah. The other bands. But then when you actually put them through a workout and let them feel it and feel that different kind of contraction, because it is a different kind of contraction than with weights, and it feels good. Like, people ask me if I'm ever going to go back to weights. Never say never. But I really just don't have the desire to, because every time I pick up a dumbbell just out of curiosity, and I'll do a curl just to see what it feels like, make sure that I haven't lost any strength, I just don't like the way it feels. It doesn't have that same kind of contraction. So I've just really kind of gotten to the point where I love the way the bands feel. And so that's the big thing, is it starts with that. It starts with effectiveness, and then all the other benefits are peripheral benefits. But so that was, that's kind of like the long and the short of it. So then it just came down to like, all right, well, let me make bands, So let me make sure that they're the best quality possible. I think, in the beginning, my perception is the same as what most people's is, which, bands are bands. But actually, it turns out they're not. Comes down to the quality of the material. It's just like anything else. There's also natural versus synthetic. I didn't want to go with something synthetic because those are all petrochemicals, super toxic for the environment. These are all natural. It's a renewable resource. I don't know if you've ever seen natural latex, how they do it. It's almost like, imagine how it is in Canada with the maple trees, the way they tap the trees and the syrup comes out of the tree. It's the exact same thing with latex. So it's a renewable resource. They are recyclable, biodegradable. They do break down eventually over time. But so I want to make sure there was something that was a good quality product. So we put it through all sorts of testing, do really cool tests where they'll actually cut a section of the band out and they'll put on a big hydraulic machine and they'll stretch this thing to 7 times its resting length, which is kind of scary to watch because you feel like it's just going to explode any second. I mean, imagine 7 times. These things are 42 inches long. So stretching this thing to, over 280 inches. It's pretty impressive, actually. So they're very strong. They're very durable as long as you take care of them. The biggest thing is you want to avoid sharp edges. I had a bad habit of anchoring all sorts of things. I'd anchor them around trees, etc. And, a lot of trees have sharp edges with the bark. And it is natural latex at the end of the day. So if you put it against something sharp, it's kind of like running over nails and broken glass with your car, expecting not to get a flat tire. So you just have to take care of them, but if you do, they're super durable, they're strong. And I think that's the biggest thing is people have this idea that resistance bands don't have the kind of resistance that free weights have, which is kind of a silly notion, to be honest with you, because I can stack up resistance bands to where I can't even move it. Doesn't matter what the exercise is. So resistance bands can provide as much resistance as you want them to. A lot of peripheral benefits, which I've covered in other videos, so I'm not going to bore you with it, of why I like them. Not just, the linear variable resistance and constant tension and, tension in different range or different planes. You get resistance in a horizontal plane, which is a game changer, really opens things up. But, like I said, I've covered all that stuff before. This, I just wanted to jump in and really just tell the backstory of, how this all came to be, because this wasn't just this idea of, hey, let me start some sort of business. What can I sell? What kind of gimmicky thing can I sell? Because at the end of the day, I could have sold anything. You see it on Amazon, or ping pong balls and paper clips. So this wasn't some sort of gimmick. I only do it because I love it. It's part of my lifestyle. It's really changed my life as far as, like I said, quality of life. So I figure if it's helped me, then there's other people out there that I think could benefit from it and appreciate it, appreciate that freedom, appreciate being able to take their workouts outside, which I don't know if any of you guys are like me, but man, I feel claustrophobic sometimes. I just, I'm in the house and I get in the car and you go to work and, the last thing that I wanted to do at the end of the day was then go indoors again to a gym. So if the weather was nice, just to have that opportunity to be outside, just to go get some fresh air and some sunshine. Doesn't matter where you're at. Yeah, I'm by the beach, and so I like training by the beach, but you don't have to be by the beach. You could be, out in the mountains or a park or wherever you want to be. And it doesn't even have to be outdoors. You can do it at home. There's plenty of times where I work out at home. Sometimes I'll do it in the backyard. I'll use one of the door anchors and I'll anchor it to one of the doors and do it on the back patio. But sometimes I'll do it in the house, or sometimes I'll do it, when I'm at work, or it doesn't matter where. You just have to set that time aside and just do it. But now there's no excuses anymore. You can't say that time is your issue. If you really want to do it, there's a way to get it done. And that's what I was looking for, was just, if there's a will, there's a way. And so I found a way. Now you just need the will. And you can get your workouts in, and you can make them super effective. But with that being said, I got some crazy stuff planned for the rest of the year. Got some stuff that I'm really excited about, new programs. We do have a new nutrition program coming out. That's going to be launching. Man, I hate setting an expectation, not being able to live up to it, but literally any day now, we're going to have a nutrition plan, which is the plan that I personally follow. It's been an evolution of trying different things. Through the years, I've tried every kind of diet you can think of. I've done, traditional bulking and cutting. I've done carb cycling, low carb, keto, intermittent fasting, you name it, I've tried it. And so what I did with this program is I took all the things that I liked, the things that worked, the things that got results, and combined the individual elements from each of those things into one nutrition philosophy. And my whole goal these days is something that doesn't feel like a lot of work. It doesn't feel like I'm having to overthink it, overplan for it. I don't want my nutrition plan to be the center of my universe, revolving around what I'm going to eat. I just don't have time for that anymore. It'd be one thing if I was doing something really serious, like I wanted to step on stage again, then I would put a little bit more effort into it. But I want a plan that gets great results, helps build muscle, helps me stay lean, and something that I can do 24/7, 365, and do it forever and never fatigue of it. Never feel like, oh man, this diet's such a drag, I can't wait to finish. Because if you have that in your head, I can't wait to finish, well then what? Then what's going to happen? If that's the plan that got you the results, then what happens when you say, okay, I don't want to follow this anymore? You think you're going to stay in the same shape? No. You're going to backslide, and then you're going to be frustrated because you're going to be yo-yoing. It's like great shape, out of shape, great shape, out of shape. So for me, it was finding a way to make this more sustainable, yet still get good results. So that's the nutrition plan that I've been following for a while now. I personally think this is, where nutrition strategies in general are going to gravitate towards, and it's not because I'm paving the way. I just think because it makes sense. I think that, balance makes sense. Balance has got to be the ultimate goal in life, and so a nutrition strategy that's balanced is the ultimate goal. That's what's going to make it more sustainable, because anything that's an extreme is very difficult to follow consistently. But so that's coming out. Got some new training programs coming out. Got some great partnerships coming out. So just this is the very, very beginning. We've had a lot of hiccups here in the beginning, just from a startup business perspective. People think it's so easy to start up an e-commerce business, like, oh, let me do a Squarespace or Shopify website and throw up some product, order it and throw it on there for sale. Selling product's the easy part. It's everything else that goes along with it that's a challenge in business. And so we've certainly had our growing pains here. One of them, a good problem to have, was simply that we just sold through inventory much faster than we thought we would several times now. And so had to deal with a lot of out of stocks, which you'd think is a good problem, but it's not a good problem in the sense from a customer service standpoint. We've got a lot of great loyal customers that have been pretty upset because the shipping experience just wasn't as good as it should be, especially compared to, look, we're all pretty, myself included, we're all pretty spoiled. We all have a high standard these days because of Amazon. Amazon will deliver same day, 1 day, 2 day. We think 2 days is a long time. It used to be that if you got your stuff in a week, you were cool with it. So, it's the bar is set pretty high these days, and then when you have some of these, let's call them operational glitches, it definitely can throw a wrench in things, but been working through all that. That's our goal to, it's not just to grow the business. My ultimate goal is to grow our community. That's what I enjoy doing. I like creating communities where it's a safe environment where people can encourage each other, share progress, and, there's so much nastiness on social media. Just everyone's got, something shitty to say. They're just waiting. They're just waiting to try to knock someone down. So to be able to create a place where it's a cool vibe, where, people can come hang out and, like I said, share positive things, I enjoy that. So that's my ultimate goal. But in order to do that, from a business perspective, you have to have a good customer service experience. You can't start things off on a rocky foot by shipping their stuff slow. So just been working through all that. And, at the same time, as we go through all these operational things that you have to deal with in a business, is creating all the cool new stuff. And that's the stuff that obviously I enjoy. I wish I could do that 24/7, just launch new programs and tips and all that. But I think we're doing a pretty good job balancing it all. We've got I don't know if you check it out, but make sure you go to Instagram on the Undersun account. I also put them on my page as well, but weekly tips. So every Tuesday, matter of fact, so today there's another one coming out. Different tips using resistance bands. And Nick does them on Thursdays as well. And, the YouTube videos, trying to come out with a new YouTube video. Trying to be consistent here, get one out once a week. But like I said, it's a challenge with all these things, kind of multitasking, wearing 20 different hats at the same time. But that's the long and the short of it. That's where the whole thing started. That's where it's at right now. I'm having fun with it. I'm enjoying it. I think anytime when you take something that you're passionate about, that you enjoy, something that's meaningful to you, and you share that with others, then that's rewarding. And so that's where I'm at right now. It's not easy. Building a business is not easy. I get a little irritated when I watch all these people, promoting these workshops, and you see it all over Instagram, like, oh, it's so easy to start your online business. It's such a fucking lie. It's not easy. It's anything but easy. Now, the cool thing is that opportunity is there. If you want to do it, you have that opportunity. And that's what makes, this country in particular still an amazing place. I mean, people talk about the American dream is dead. No, the American dream is not dead. We still have the opportunity to do so many cool things that other people in the rest of the world, they don't have those same kind of opportunities. They don't have that same kind of freedom or those luxuries. So, hey, you want to start a business? You can do it. But don't think it's easy, because nothing good is easy. But that's it. It's kind of where we're at. I just wanted to share with you guys, give you behind the scenes of what the thought process was when I put this whole thing together, why I was doing it. For a lot of people, it seemed like a radical shift. Like, whoa, this dude went from like serious weight training to now selling resistance bands. Is this some sort of gimmick? Is he just trying to make money off this? No, I'm doing it because I love it. And it's as simple as that. When you can combine something that you're passionate about and something that you're good at, for me, I feel like probably one of my talents is just being a teacher, just sharing information. And trying to take things that seem complicated, maybe even intimidating, and trying to simplify it so people can understand it. And that's one of the things that I happen to enjoy doing. So taking fitness and education and bringing those two things together, and that's really the core of Undersun. And then you throw in the community building aspect on top of it. It's all the things that I enjoy, and motivating people, which I do because it motivates me. That's the easiest way that I can motivate myself, is leading by example, holding myself accountable. So it's kind of a selfish motivation mixed in there, I guess. Still doing it for myself at the end of the day, because it helps me. But that's it for now. So I appreciate you guys listening to me drone on. But if you're part of the Undersun community, then I figured it'd be nice for you to hear the story. As far as immediate things where we're going besides the nutrition plan, definitely if you have the opportunity, jump on the private Facebook group for Undersun. We just launched it. That is the official page. And there's some other groups out there, which is pretty cool. It's awesome that there's some different Facebook user groups out there that have started up. So always love seeing that. But this one is the official one that we've started. And the reason that I encourage you to jump on there is soon we will start doing live Q&As, which I'm looking forward to. And that's where we get to jump into all the miscellaneous random topics and talk about different things. And, not just training philosophies specific to bands, but some of the more general philosophies that apply to any style of training, especially when it comes to goal setting, motivation, nutrition, all that good stuff. So that's it for now. I'm going to tune out. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you next Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern. All right, guys.